All right, welcome to the Blue Room Podcast, an intimate space where we explore ourselves, our lives, and our relationships more deeply through therapeutic conversation. I'm your host, Fantana Shatamsa, and I'm so grateful to be on this journey with you. Today we have a different setting. We're usually in a different setting. Today I am doing our first virtual recording from my home. So we're gonna see how this goes. We're gonna see how you guys like it and how easy it flows. But today I have Randall Mitchell. He's joining me as my guest. Hey, Randall.
Hey, Fantanesh. I'm not sure who got the memo. The black did. What was your thoughts behind the whole color scheme today, huh?
Oh, we're matching, aren't we?
Oh yeah, great minds, great minds.
Great minds. I think like all I need is driven written across this shirt.
Come on, we'll. If that's your way of asking for a T-shirt, I'll definitely. No, but
Yes,
otherwise,
yeah.
how was your day today?
My day was pretty good, actually, pretty hectic. Like most of them are, but productive. The minutes just fly and the hours just fly, and you end up doing one thing after another. But this is my favorite part of my day, so I'm really grateful to be chatting with you.
Isn't it so true? Yeah, Fantanesh, is it okay? Do you have a nickname that I can call you? Can I call you Fanny? Can I call you?
Call me Fanny.
Can I call you Fanny?
Yes, of course. Yeah, call me Fanny.
Don't you like it when you have a stressful day, but doing an interview just makes your day better? That's when you know you are doing your passion, eh?
Yeah. No, I agree. It's those glimpses of divinity that we chatted about on your show where you just get to pause and just like have a human connection with people.
Yeah. No, thanks again for having me on the show. I look forward to seeing what comes out of this. My desire, Fantanesh, is that this hour or hour and a half that we have together, we will really add so much value to the viewers that's watching here. I really want to leave the viewers with practical steps on how they can remain driven, and also just having a fun conversation and getting to know you deeper as well. So that's my expectation, and I'm sure the viewers are going to be blessed out of this convo.
I know they're going to get a lot out of it. You're definitely the motivator, the inspiring online coach slash guru slash fitness person slash
You know
like
what? If you're
motivational.
gonna stop talking right now, I'm gonna virtually slap you. No, much love to you, Fantanesh. I appreciate you having this conversation with myself. So yeah.
I'm excited. I'm excited. And for folks who don't know who you are you able to just give an introduction as to who is Randall Mitchell? What is Randall Mitchell all about?
Sure. So allow me just to maybe give just a brief synopsis of my journey. I'll keep it under 120 seconds. Is that okay, Fanny? I'll keep it short.
I'm gonna time you starting right now.
Yeah.
Joking.
So, born in South Africa, Cape Town. Major salute to all those from Cape Town. I see you if you are on TikTok right now. Major salute to you from Cape Town. Born for 24 years, lived in Cape Town. Thereafter, moved over to Canada. From the age of 24, moved over to Canada. And just to backtrack, when I was in Cape Town for the first 24 years of my life, grew up in the church. So my dad's a pastor, a PK kid, spent some time in the worship team. So I fell in love with drums, fell in love with different instruments, and then also spent some time leading youth. So being part of the youth leadership. And of course, at that same time, I was also studying at university. I was also doing multiple other things, such as being on campus radio. I remember being on campus radio for just a brief stint. Also owning doing a couple of side businesses on the side. But then I decided, at the age of 24, I wanted something bigger. I needed a change. That's when I came to Canada. For the first 10 years in Canada, spent it mainly in the financial industry. Also, my passion is in writing. So in that time of 10 years, I wrote a couple of books, around 6 books. It's all on Amazon. The flagship book is Teenership, Leadership for Teens. In that time, I was very much in leadership at the bank. And then before COVID happened, I joined the forces, the Canadian Forces. Being the Canadian Forces now for the last 3 years, my last year is coming up right now. It's March 2025, and the 4-year contract's coming to an end. Of course, they want to keep you there, Fanny, but I said, hey, no, it was just a bucket list thing I needed to do, something I wanted to get under my belt in terms of leadership experience, and I look forward to the next journey of my life. So that's it in a nutshell.
Wow. I literally did not know all that about you.
Oh man, yeah, a lot of it's so true, Fanny. When you are always the one interviewing, you don't get to share these things. So I'm glad it's very refreshing being on the other side of the mic with you, Fanny.
Yeah. Yeah,
Yeah.
no, for sure. And like just a quick plug to your podcast is that the Driven Daily Show. Um, and that's, you invited me on and we got to chat a little bit on there. You're a great interviewer, by the way, a great conversationalist.
Oh, man, I appreciate it.
Um, and yeah, we, kind of going back to like how, where we first met, and, you can hear the story back on Randall's show, but, we really just met through like DJ Henry at, was it Cafe Lunette? I think he was
Yeah,
DJing, and I was like, who's this new person like around, like
come
really like
on.
cool boy, swaggy with
Uh
like the
oh.
accent. Like, who is this? Like, usually people, people who's around. Um, like, just Halifax is so small, so we know people that are around. And I was like, yeah, Henry, like, introduce me to your friend, and we started chatting and following each other, and yeah, and I just have to say, like, one of the things that really like drew me to connect with you more and just like kind of intrigued me more to like learn more about you was through your YouTube channels, and through your Instagrams, because you're like this real motivational coach, or just human that's experiencing things. I don't know if you call yourself a coach. I know you do a lot of stuff with leadership, but just your like, I guess you speak in such a powerful way, and it's like so captivating. And I'm particularly interested in relationship stuff, and that seems to be like a topic that you love to talk, a lot about.
Yeah.
And is that because of like personal stuff that you're like healing through and growing through? Like, where does this knowledge and like wisdom come from relationships?
Yeah, Fanny, I'm glad you also have a desire to speak around relationships, because I think it's something that we all can speak on for hours and hours and never get bored of.
Mm-hmm.
The main subject that I deal with on my YouTube channel is was and still is how to be single and motivated. You know, how to be single and driven, because many a times when we find ourselves in a single position, we sometimes find ourselves then on the couch with a big tub of ice cream, eating our way to a sob. What's it? Stella got her groove back, and now we're in a level of a mode of depression. And for me, I found myself in a space where, I was also in that situation, and I decided, you know what? Because I'm going through this right now, let me also encourage those, and let's just all go on a journey together. So when you are on the YouTube channel, you will see content when it comes to, the dangers of being single for too long, how to remain single and motivated. And also, I think the underlying key is self-love that you will get out of the videos. So that's essentially where it stemmed from. And yes, the first time meeting you, Fanny, was an interesting experience. I was wondering, who is that lady all dolled up right there, looking like she just came from an IG shoot? And what on earth is she sitting all alone over there? I think you were waiting for some of your friends to come. But
Yeah.
I'm glad we're going to get into some relationship talk also today.
Yeah, yeah. No, I'm really grateful when folks are vulnerable around relationships, like talking about relationships, and just, yeah, how to really be okay with being single, and how to really value yourself enough to, um yeah, maybe leave relationships that are not, working well for you, and to not rush into the next relationship knowing that maybe you're not fully healed yet, or maybe someone that you're seeing is not really the person that you want to make that commitment to. So
Yeah.
I really appreciate like those open and honest conversations. And like I want to know like what kind of got you interested in the relationship topics. Like were you like a lover boy since like since being a pastor's child and being in church, or like has it always been your persona?
Oh, let's just backtrack there. What do you mean? What do you mean, lover boy? There, Fanny. Can you please elaborate on? No, you meaning like what made me so much into have me so much into the relationship talk.
Yeah, yeah.
You know what? To be frank with you, when I was around 16 years old, that's more or less when I had my first major crush, right? And Fanny, there are moments. I'm not sure about you, but when you were young, picture this with me for a moment. When you are young, or when you were young, there was this individual that you saw this person, and immediately you were infatuated. Where when you came home after school, all you could think about is this person. You are daydreaming about this person. You are plotting on your sheet. How am I going to strike a conversation with this person? If she says this, I'm going to say that. If I say that, she's going to say this. And for me, I was obsessed with it when I was a younger. I remember when I was a kid listening to Metro FM. That's a big radio station in South Africa. And at nights, I had the radio on, and like after 10 o'clock side, Tebow Touch and Peebo Bryson and all those, that DJ would play all those love songs, of Erykah Badu, Sade, Boyz II Men. And I would sit and lay in my bed and listen to it, and I would just feel this emotion. And then when I went into community radio, I then started also doing something similar on radio, where I would play those love jams and ask the listeners, hey, ask them questions like, do you believe in love at first sight, or those type of questions. And I think that really just put really a dent in my childhood in terms of that romance and that love aspect. That as I am now, my view on everything has evolved so much, Fanny. And I just wanted to share one thing with our viewers right now. If you are single right now, and you think, hey, I need to become whole. I need to focus on myself completely. And once I'm 100%, I'm then going to go out and then find someone. That advice sounds good on paper, Fanny, but the reality is that there's only so much self-development you can do on your own. Somebody has to, when you get connected with someone, it's almost like a mirror. They expose the flaws that you cannot see if you are single. So my encouragement to you is no, not to rush into a relationship, but realize that, look, there's only so much I can do on my own. Let me just put the guards down just a little, because I know once the guards is down, I can actually see clearly, and we can actually grow together, as opposed to me thinking I'm whole and then realizing going into a relationship, hey, I didn't do enough work, and then you back out, and then it's this vicious cycle of in and out, in and out. So I just wanted to throw that in there, Fanny. But long story
Yeah.
short, that's where the origin of being the quote unquote from Fanny the lover boy.
The lover boy started
Yeah.
at 16. Oh my gosh.
Was it
I
was it
was
similar to you? Have you ever had that kind of crush, Fanny?
oh, I've been crushing, I feel like, since I first like knew what the opposite sex was. Like I've just always been like infatuated with, I guess, the happily ever afters and just like the romance, and like I'm a lover of love for sure.
Wonderful.
Which is like also my downfall, because like
Ish.
as much as sometimes like the thing that you want the most is like the hardest to attain. And and folks who have heard me speak for a while know that my astrology is important to me. Seventh house is the house of relationships. It's in Scorpio. Scorpio is like a very intense sign. Also, Pluto's there. Pluto's the planet of destruction and upheaval and renewal. So in my relationships, I do meet with a lot of like conflict and challenge. So the fact that you kind of spoke about like self development and how you really kind of um, you're challenged in that sense when you're in relationships, when you're with another person. Like that resonates with me so much. I find often relationships are a mirror to me
Yeah.
as far as how do I process triggers, how do I communicate, like where am I being toxic, like how can I kind of grow and be a better person individually, but also like a better partner. And it's like it's one of those things, like I say it all the time, I've figured out a lot of things in life, and this is like an area that I'm still growing in for
So
sure.
I couldn't agree more with what you just said in terms of relationships being a mirror. And I acknowledge what you mentioned now, that that's still an area that you're growing through, Fanny. One of the beautiful parts about being in a relationship, especially when you are with the right partner, you both can be intentional about growing together. Can you picture this, Fanny, with me? Imagine being with someone where your partner and yourself are so intentional when it comes to growing. Every night, you ask yourself the question and you ask each other the question, baby, did we grow today? Did we grow today in any way? And
Right.
and if the answer is yes, phenomenal. If the answer is no, we then strategize tomorrow. Say, hey, baby, listen, tomorrow let's focus on this particular area. Imagine we do that every day, Fanny.
Mm-hmm.
Imagine. Come on, where is
That's
that
like
person? I
that's like the
slide in my
enlightened,
DM right now.
right now. Who's willing to like do that work and be that vulnerable? Like it's about vulnerability. Like you have to be willing to show your full self. And I think that's something that I sometimes struggle with, and I think a lot of folks struggle with, is like
Mm,
how vulnerable do I want to be with this person? I have my guards up, I have my reservations, I've had my traumas and experiences. Like, do I really want to, sit kind of like figuratively naked in front of a person and say, this is how I've grown, how I need to grow, like this is how I would like you to grow, like
yeah.
rather than just like harboring it and just like holding it inside, right? It's such a risky thing. Relationships are very risky, and I don't know, and I'm curious to know actually if like you've seen those types of relationships, like those healthy relationships now and even like growing up, and has that like impacted your view on relationships?
To be frank with you, I haven't had a lot of examples. I haven't had a lot of examples of how of how a relationship should be. I think just growing up in an area where there's a lot of domestic violence, there's a lot of alcoholism, drug abuse, and gangsterism. Especially as a kid, that's all, if that's all you see. What I tended to do, and I think which most kids tend to do, is we just block, we just cover our eyes, and hopefully one day we can be shown an example of what it's like. Uh, but it reminds me of, especially growing up in the church, the relationship we have with our creator. I think that's a relationship that is almost idealistic, in a sense of where that is what we can strive for, not necessarily or we always attain it, but the relationship that we have with our creator, and just how, like, as a Christian, it portrays in the Bible how the Father loved the Son.
Mm-hmm.
It's kind of like an example of how I should treat not just others, but actually how I should treat myself. And I think that's the starting point. Um, if I should go a bit deeper, Fanny, when it comes to how do I have a healthy relationship if I haven't seen one? Hey, yeah, yeah. Talk to me now. Talk to me. Um, I think for myself, I try to do the things that I've seen in my life that had shortcomings. Um, but I think at the end of the day, Fanny, it's a work in progress. Like, I'm going to go into a relationship right now, and I don't know how it's going to go, but it's going to be a work in progress. And that's the only stance I can take right now. Because Fanny, if it's going to be the case of where I'm going to say I'm not going to go into a relationship, and maybe you find yourself in the situation where you say I'm not. I'm so scared to go into something because I haven't seen a healthy relationship or the perfect relationship modeled. We not going to end up getting into one at the end of the day. So having the mindset of, hey, it's a work in progress and we're going to take it step by step, I think that's a mindset that's a bit better.
Mm.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's so many complexities to it, isn't there? Like even like, and I'm also Christian, and just hearing you talk about like how the Father loves the Son, like do I have the human capacity to like I love my kids that much, but like, could I love a partner that much where like all things are forgivable and like, you know, I'm just gonna stand by you like no
Yeah.
matter what. And I know that's like a super selfish, um, super selfish to say, but I
Yeah.
think
To chuckle
it's
on that
part
one.
of
Yeah.
like it's part of like the generation, just like the society we grew up in. It's like not to tolerate like any BS, especially as women, especially as, you know, Black women. Like, you know, it's like we're getting things from all angles, and like when you're getting it from your relationship as well, it's so encouraged to just not tolerate it and just to move on. And I understand it for like bigger stuff, but then sometimes it trickles down into the smaller things where you're just like, you know, I can like literally, if I'm going to struggle and have a difficult time, I might as well just do it by myself. But then you end up by yourself and you're like, wow, I really don't like being alone, and this
Yeah.
is also not fun.
Yeah, man.
uh, but yeah, the complexities around it, like if you have not had those examples, and then you're actively trying to find a person or to create this like ideal relationship, you're kind of leaning based on what you wish or what you hope or what you desire. But then that self love piece that you chatted about at the beginning is so important because, again, if you haven't had those examples, like, do you know your own value? Do you know your own worth
Yeah.
to pick the person that, you know, is going to meet you in that space where you're willing to kind of put that work in, because you've been doing the work, but then are you then going to choose a person who's also willing to reciprocate that?
So true. And I think, Fanny, there's so much angles we can take this. But there was a few moments in my life that really shaped the way I think right now and the trajectory of where my life has gone. And
Mhm.
if you would, I would love to share with you one moment in my life that has shaped. And I think,
Please do.
yeah, I think this may just be a good foundation for maybe some of the other questions that you have. I remember one Wednesday night, myself and my brother, we were upstairs. So we had a double story. We were upstairs, and the nature of my family, yes, my mom in particular, she's a very jokey individual. She likes to do pranks. She likes to make fun, and this Wednesday, she called us down the stairs, myself and my brother Theo, and we came down, we came down, and I could feel something was off, man, because when the vibe is always jovial, and when it's not jovial, you can immediately feel something's off. And we sat on the couch, and my mom and my dad was there, and she looked at us both, and she said that she had some news to share with us. And I was like, okay. And in my mind, I was thinking, okay, what can this news be? And then she proceeded to say that she went to the hospital, and the doctor did some tests, and they found that she has cancer.
Oh,
And at that moment, Fanny, all I was thinking about was how am I going to live my life? Am I going to grow up without a mom? Am I going to grow up having kids and my kids is not going to see a grandma? Or if I get married one day, my my mom won't be able to see it. And there was absolute silence in that lounge. You could really just hear, you could hear a pin drop. And at that moment, not too long after, my brother stood up and he went to the table, he grabbed his car keys, and he left. And I didn't pay too much attention to it. 5 minutes went by, he's still not there. 10 minutes went by, he's still not there. 15 minutes, he comes in, Fanny, and he comes in with a chocolate cake and a 2-liter pop. And he comes in, and I'm thinking to myself, okay, Theo, I know your favorite cool drink is Coke, and I know your favorite chocolate cake is chocolate. And he went straight to my mom, and he looked my mom in the face, and he said, Mom, today we are celebrating. And I didn't understand at the time, Fanny, what that meant. But I've come to realize, and before I share this, around 2 to 3 years thereafter, my mom went through chemo, and the cancer went into remission. So she was completely healed from the cancer.
Okay.
And I didn't realize what my brother did then, but I now realize, Fanny, that what my brother did was he spoke life into my mom's situation. And I'm not sure who I'm speaking to right now, because I know we have viewers watching right now. You might be facing a situation where you might feel like the situation in your life is dying. It might feel like there's no hope for your current situation. I want you to take this moment, and I want you to remember these 2 words, and these 2 words are speak life. You see, Fanny, the unfortunate thing is, if we don't speak life into our situation, nobody else will. And us speaking now about relationships, sometimes it can feel gloomy. Sometimes it can feel like, I don't know how it's going to happen, when it's going to happen. But I need us to remember these 2 words. And those 2 words is, I need to speak life into my situation.
That is straight to my soul.
Yeah,
You just
yeah.
pierced me with that one.
Oh, man.
Yeah, it's so powerful, and I used this example. And first of all, thank you for sharing that about your mother. Thank you for sharing that story. And there was an example that I used the other day. So if I say to you that there's a fire in the next room, and how your cortisol levels will go up, your heart rate will go up, your nervous system will start firing, whether or not the threat is real or perceived, like just the thought of it will have this physiological effect, right? And then if I say to you, just joking, there's no fire next door, how your heart rate will go down, how your nervous system will calm down, how your hormone release will just be shifted. And that's just on a thought alone. That's not whether or not the threat is real or perceived or not. That's just the power of the mind and how that has that physiological effect.
Sure.
So the fact that how you said, like speaking life into our situations, into our relationships, into our environments, like it's so critical, and it can affect us physically.
So true. So true. And it just reminds me of how important Henry Ford says, show me your friends and I'll show you your future. And to what you are saying about physiology and how important the people that's around you is, the law of state transfer says, Fanny, I'm not sure if you've heard this law. It says, whatever you feel, I feel. And this might sound very simple. However, you and I both know there are people in your life that are negative, and because we are all many of us are empaths. We say, hey, you know what? That's okay. If they are negative, I'm going to be the one that, make sure that they get out of the negative state. But you don't realize many a times the pull is so strong that, yes, in the moment you might feel like you're helping them, but when you're at home at night, you wonder, why am I feeling such a heavy spirit? It's because of that
Right.
law of osmosis where their spirit got attached to yours. And
Yep.
based on what you mentioned, I just want us to be a bit more cautious of who we spend most of our time with. Not saying we need to neglect everyone and be isolated, but however, when it comes to the majority of our time, we need to be so intentional and so selective, Fanny. I'm not. I think you've been in that space now where, if I'm not mistaken, you've really curated your surroundings to the point of where it's so intentional, eh?
Hmm. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. I agree 100%. Like, where your energy goes, that's where like everything flows. So if
Come
you're in
on.
spaces that are like depleting you, they're like making your confidence go down, your self-esteem go down. If you have people around you that are not like driving you or inspiring you, that becomes your reality. So I've had to make a few changes a few times.
Yeah. No, so
Yeah.
true. So true. I've realized, Fanny, if, like, for example, this conversation that we're having right now, if you can sense my attitude and my intention, and after this call, I will leave with your spirit and you will leave with
Mhm.
mine. And if you can really, if as a viewer right now, if you can be so intentional of finding someone to be in your space that will speak life into your situation, where you and I both know, Fanny, there are moments when we speak to someone over the phone or is in communication with someone in person, that when we leave their spirit, we feel like our soul has been enriched. We feel like we can take on life again. And wouldn't it be nice, Fanny, to have that on a daily basis?
Yeah,
Man,
100%.
where are
Yep.
those people? Give me a 10 of them. Just give me one. I just need one.
If you find one, you're lucky. Like
Ah,
it's like,
yes.
even just to have one is true luck. Um, yeah, I mean it's yeah. I'm feeling inspired. I'm thinking of the person who I do call when I'm down, and she just automatically just speaks life and love into my day, into my situation, and how that
Yeah.
makes such an impact.
So, so,
Um,
so true. Fanny, I truly believe, and I know you've got questions for me, but you're just inspiring me right now to also just to speak what's on my heart.
please do.
Um, I believe the quality of one's answer is typically determined by the quality of the question. And what I mean by this is, can I ask you a question, Fanny? And this is not going to be a trick question. It's a simple question, but I really want you to answer this with so much honesty and genuineness. And I know I don't have to ask you to do it, but just for the sake of the podcast, um, what's one thing that when it happens in your life, you'll be so overjoyed? Is there a goal that you have that when the goal is reached, you will just be flooded with so much joy?
Mhm. Yeah, I know what it is off the top of my head.
Are you able to share, or no? It's kind of just if you
No,
don't want it, it's totally fine. I can share it with you mine if it's too.
no, it's not. It's I was just and I don't know how deep you want to take it, but I was just working on my short and long term goals. So for me, it's just like acquiring property. Like that's something that I'm really looking forward to and actively working towards. Um, and it's less about like kind of having an asset and having something like financial. It's just what it means, like as far as like generationally and like for my family, and like there's so much that's attached to that one kind of goal. But yeah, yeah.
And thank you for sharing that. And it when you said that to me, I can. maybe I'm just pulling this out of my thumb, but I can assume that what you were feeling when you were saying that, you were feeling a sense of security, feeling a sense of well-being, just a sense of euphoria when you think of that taking place, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
And just thinking about it also right now, Fanny, one of the goals that I was thinking about of, because I'm reading the book called The Magic of Thinking Big. I'm not sure, have you heard of that book, Fanny?
No, I haven't heard that one.
The Magic of Thinking Big, and it's self-explanatory, as the title says, thinking big and how to overcome limiting beliefs in order to really think big. And I was thinking, Fanny, what if I could think big right now, what goal would there be, right? And I'm so thrilled you shared with me your goal, because that's a big goal. Having property so that generations can live on and they can say, hey, we've got something in our name. That's a massive goal.
Right. Hmm.
When I think of myself leaving the Navy right now and going back to South Africa, my goal has always to be on radio, right? So I started on community radio. Of course, I'm starting a podcast right now in the hopes of, once this podcast, gains momentum and I do apply to a station, they can see, hey, he's got some work under his belt. Let's at least
Right.
give his resume a shot. And I was thinking, it would be so cool if I could have a slot every Sunday evenings playing the Love Jams, asking the viewers the same questions back when I was 16, 17. And just
Oh,
thinking about that, Fanny, just made me so excited to continue the
yeah.
podcast, and also excited for my future. So I'm saying all of this, and I'm glad, Fanny, you shared with us your desire. And for the viewers that are watching, I'm sharing this because I need you to really have a and this, it sounds like you've heard this before, but this is so true. You've got to have a compelling future. Otherwise, being driven would just be a thought. You've got to have something that excites you, man. You know? Oh,
Yeah.
man. Give me a
Absolutely.
microphone and a radio station. If there's a program manager right now, you got to book me a year in advance. I'm coming for you, baby. I'm coming.
Oh my gosh. No, I want to go into that a little bit as far as like your goals after this, but just like really quickly, as far as goals and defining what success means to you, like how important that is. So important. Otherwise, we're never going to feel satisfied. We're never going to feel like we've made it. We're never going to give an opportunity for us to celebrate ourselves, because a lot of us
Yeah.
are working, just goal after goal after goal after goal, which is totally fine, but without kind of defining like kind of the steps along the way, or defining like, what does success look like to me? Is it finances? Is it like a family? Is it a home? Like if I don't know what it looks like to me, then it's going to be society that defines it for me, and then I
Yeah.
might never feel like I've achieved it. Do you know what I mean?
It's so true. And I think maybe if we can backtrack, Fanny, um, I think, can we start in a position of, maybe you in this position right now watching, maybe you are in a state of apathy, meaning you in a state of where, whatever happens, happens, things normally don't go my way, so why do I even try? I want to speak to this individual right now. I want to give you three things you can do right now in order to get you out of this state of apathy, if that's okay, Fanny. Three
Mm-hmm.
things I'd like to
Please do.
share. And I'm going to be very brief. I don't like being long-winded, but hey,
Please
sometimes
do.
you just gotta do it, right? Um,
Give
but
it to us. I'm
yeah,
taking.
I want to entitle this the three P's, Fanny. The three P's. So the first P is people. I give this analogy. Let's say I'm sitting on this chair right here, and I have someone that's standing on a pedestal right here. I'm sitting on the chair, and this person is standing on the pedestal. If I have this person's hand and we're holding hands with one another, what is it more easier? Is it, and Fanny, if you can play the role of the viewer right here. Fanny, is it easier for me to pull the person down, or is it easier for the person to pull me up?
it's easier to be pulled down, isn't it?
Absolutely. And the thing is, many of us are like this individual. Many of us are like this person standing on the pedestal. We're trying to pull everyone up. But the sad reality is
Mhm.
it's an uphill battle trying to pull people up because of the fact that you and I both know, Fanny, we all have, many of us has this big heart. Maybe we grew up like this where we were just taking care of everyone, and because of that we grew up with that same spirit now of taking care of everyone. But the sad
Mhm.
reality is, if we're going to take care of everyone and neglect ourselves, we're going to end up laying face first on the floor. And maybe this is you right now, face first on the floor, because you've been trying to help everyone. I want you to keep this first P in mind. People. It's very important who you surround yourself with. So the first P is people. The second
Mhm.
P is, let me think about this one, past. So I'm not sure if you said you grew up in the church, which, or not grew up in the church, but you're familiar with the Christian philosophy and the Bible. And in the Bible, it speaks about David and Goliath. And
Mhm.
when David fought Goliath, before he fought him, David was faced with a bear, he was faced with a lion, and he defeated those animals. Then he came to Goliath. And when he came to Goliath, he thought to himself, you know what? Because I overcame the bear, because I overcame the lion, I can surely overcome my Goliath. The second P is past, because I need you to take a moment right now to keep your past in mind. You and I both know, Fanny, there were moments in our lives where we thought we were not going to make it. There were moments in our lives where we thought, how am I going to pay the bills next month?
Mhm.
There were also moments where we were ill and potentially in the hospital bed and wondering, how am I going to make it through?
Or how many times have we had to start over?
Yeah,
That we had to start over.
that's right. And keeping all those victories in mind, saying, hey, I had the moment where I couldn't see myself getting out of that hospital bed. I had that moment where I thought, I don't know how am I going to make it financially, but I've made it. And therefore, I can surely overcome my current Goliath. So the first P is people. The second P is past. The third P is purpose. There's a
Mhm.
scholar by the name of Michael Hyatt that said, many a times those that has lost their way are many times those that has lost their why. And
Mhm.
maybe it's a case of where you are directionless, and maybe Michael Hyatt's quote hits a nerve where, hey, I need to find what my why is.
Mhm. Mhm.
Maybe this is a moment where these three P's you need to meditate on as you're watching this tonight, and think about, hey, look, what are the people that are in my life right now? Number two, what were the trying times that I went through? And let me keep those in the forefront of my mind. And number
Mhm.
three, do I have a compelling future that's going to keep me driven moving forward? Let's keep those three P's in mind.
Mhm. Mhm. That's like the perfect segue even to your next steps, like after the Navy, because you said 3 years,
Yeah,
which is it the Navy? It is the
the Navy.
Navy.
Yeah, it's a 4 year
That's,
contract. It's my last year this year. Yeah.
yeah, like how did you like tell us about the journey? Like first of all, how did you get into finances after being in the church? And then why did you get into the Navy? And what's your next step?
Yeah. So you know, um, being in the church, being in youth leadership, and working with my dad in the community, leadership has always been in the backbone of our family, and also in the work that we were doing back home in South Africa. And I've been consuming leadership books most of my life. My dad had a massive library of books with Miles Monroe, John C. Maxwell, T.D. Jakes, and a whole host of books, and I consumed myself with it, and I developed a love and a deep desire, especially the philosophy of John C. Maxwell, Fanny, where he's very much talking about not leading with your title, but leading with your heart. And when I was
Mm.
first in leadership at the church, I led with my title. And then when I consumed these books, and I then changed to leading with my heart, and I could physically and visibly see a change in people's conduct and my leadership style influencing them, I'm like, this is crazy, Fanny. You can literally lead people where people actually want to follow your lead, in a sense of where being under leadership and you like, I got to do this, but I don't really want to do this. But now you actually want to do it, not because of what the person says you will do, but because you trust this person's character so much that it's almost like, Fanny, you want to become like the leader, and because of that, you will follow what he says. And that fascinated me so much, because now it taught me that the buck really stops with leadership. Like if I'm expecting someone to do something, they need to see it visibly in my life that A, I'm capable of doing it, but B, they trust me in the sense of where I've got their best interest at heart and they can feel it down in the core. And
Mhm.
for me, that was fascinating. And then, of course, that went into coming to Canada and, being in finances and joining the leadership team where,
No, how did you get to finances?
yeah.
Like,
So for
is
example,
that what you studied? Did you study that in
oh
university? Is
no,
that
oh
what
no. So when I say finances, I mean more the leadership aspect. So I
okay.
worked in Scotiabank and another bank as well, doing the training, but also then moving into they call it it's vendor management, where essentially you train the managers of another company of how. So, for example, Scotiabank and maybe the vendor that we have, let's say the vendor is Coca Cola, for example. I would then go to Coca Cola and then teach the management in Coca Cola of what should be done according to Scotiabank's standards and their rules and regulations.
Okay.
And one of the joys for me out of doing that was every morning, Fanny, I had to do a couple of things. When meeting with the leadership team, I had to set the vision for the day. Number two, I had to keep them motivated throughout the day. And number three, keep them accountable at the end of the day. So doing those three things, in particularly the first thing, which is motivating them first thing in the morning, was such a joy. It was similar to the feeling we feel when we do the podcast and standing up is like, shoot, I can't wait to go there and motivate the team. Uh, that was essentially doing that for about 6 to 7 years. And then I told myself, hey, in that time, I then got my Canadian citizen, Fanny. And
Mhm.
that's when I decided, hey, because I have my citizenship, now I can officially start and
The
apply
Navy.
for the Navy.
Was that
Because
always a goal, like for you?
it was because of the fact that I knew that when I joined the forces, I will then have another element I can put under my belt when it comes to leadership, man.
Mm.
So for example, back home in South Africa, I was taught leading with a heart, and now I wanted the next challenge of how can I. We know the forces don't lead. You guys don't lead with a heart. The forces we lead with brute force, right? So I needed to know what that other side was, because
Right.
I couldn't be one dimensional, man, because we
Mhm.
as human beings are not one dimensional. What maybe works with Fanny may not work with Tyrone, because Tyrone is maybe hard headed and he needs a bit more ruling with an iron fist. So I thought,
Right.
allow me to have that experience here with the Navy.
Right.
Yeah. And then of course, now the journey is slowly but surely concluding on this side.
Good. So your
Yeah.
next step is hopefully to have a radio show and play love songs all night long, like Sade and Erica Badu.
Oh, man, Randall Mitchell just fell off. He said he's not going to do anything else. He's just going to retire. No, no.
Forget it.
I said if I do a radio show back in SA, it will probably be just a stint, like a 1 year contract that I'll do. It's all just
Yeah,
bucket list things I'd want to do. But on a grander scheme, Fanny, and I don't want to go too much in detail because this it can be very prolonged. But I told myself I want financial independence and location and time independence.
right,
So, in other words, I would want to work in an area because I want to, not because I have to, man.
right.
And I've set that goal even before I decided to join the Navy. And I said, hey, this is a strategic move right now, joining the Navy, because I'm working, everything I'm doing is working up to the point of where I'm going to be having the time, location, and freedom.
Hmm. Hmm.
So long story short, I'd want to have an online business going. Right now, I'm going to have. It's all going to be under the Driven Daily brand. Of course, I'm saying this now. However, in the next 5 to 10 years, things can change. But right now, it's all under the Driven Daily brand. I'm still going to maintain the podcast going, the influencing, being able to do this anywhere in the world, and not just have
Yeah,
the podcast, but have other forms of income under the Driven Daily brand. I'd love to have. I always said I'd love to have a. I'm very much into nutrition and fitness, so part of that I'd love to have a green drink. So I want to have the daily
nice.
greens still under the logo.
Daily.
So it's a lot of things in the pipeline, but one step at a time right now, and I can't wait
Yeah,
for
you've
what's going
done
to come.
business before. You mentioned like you've had a couple of business before, so entrepreneurship is like it's not new to you, and you have this
Yeah.
leadership, just natural skill and talent, but then also the experience behind it. And I love that you mentioned leading with the heart because that's definitely a space that I am in, and I'm
Yeah.
growing in, and I'm really like. I'm really interested in because we all have different leadership qualities, and you've touched on it. Some folks they kind of lead with an iron fist, and a lot of folks might need that because they need that accountability piece. They need someone to keep them on track and things like that. And um, back when I had the clinic and I was, managing like a team for the first time, I was like in a leadership role. I didn't really know what my leadership style was at that time. So I was like kind of developing it. And then, trying to make sure that everything was done properly. Um, I feel like I could have done a better job as far as the type of leader that I want to be, and now being in a different space, I'm all about relationships. Like that comes so
Yeah.
easily to me, um, and I know that being soft and being vulnerable and communicating with people and building those relationships, people think it's like a soft skill, but you
Hmm.
can really influence and inspire people to um, not follow your lead, but believe in your projects or believe in your ideas
Yes.
because they really get a sense of the type of person that you are. And that's also a form of leadership. It doesn't necessarily have to be like the loudest or,
Yeah.
the like
Yeah.
the most like strict person in the room. Being able to connect with people like in that heart space, you can have so much more impact
So true.
rather than leading with like fear or like just I mean respect is going to come either way, whether it's fearful respect or loving respect, you're going to get the respect either way. But like how do you want people to feel when they're around you, and what's the type of influence and impact that you want to have? So
No,
yeah, I love
and absolutely, Fanny. And to add on to what you just mentioned, one thing that has really hit the point home of leading with your heart was the quote that John C. Maxwell said in his book, and he said, "People don't care how much you know until they know how much you care."
mhm.
And once that when that hit home for me, I'm like, I can't lead the same way ever again. You know.
Right,
So I
right.
totally hear you.
Yeah, no, I love it, and it resonates in terms of like how I like to be led, like
Mm.
as an individual, like, show that you care, show that you actually care about me as a person. I do love the accountability piece. I think I really strive under stress sometimes. Sometimes I don't mind like the kind of strict, like militant, like you need to get this done. Cause sometimes I thrive on
Yeah.
meeting like deadlines and just like being in a high stress environment.
Yeah.
Um, but I know, like, yeah, as far as the other end of it, like trying to create that impact and connection. Uh, I mean, you've shared so much. Like, I'm really so excited to kind of see how like your brand grows and just like see what else you put out there. Like, you just be dropping gems like left, right, and center. And
Oh
like I've just
man.
been taking notes like this entire
Oh
time.
man. No, I told myself that, I really just take the opportunity to add value, especially like we mentioned, when the roles are reversed, it's very seldom, so I always
Yeah.
appreciate moments like these.
So your goal, your plan is to go back to SA after your 4 years are done.
Yeah, the plan, Fanny, and I know this was a joke when I said the last time, but I totally mean this. I said no more winters, Fanny, no more winters. So the plan is really to go back home, spend a few months back home, and then come to Canada, and then also travel and see what the world is also like. So, but I said no, I can't do winters anymore. Oh no.
Okay. Okay. You say you're not. So no. The hell no.
Oh no! I said I can't handle the snow anymore. Oh, people say, "Aren't you used to it already? 13 years. You don't get used to the snow." Oh no,
You don't.
you don't,
People
eh?
say to me, yeah, they're like, you've lived here for 33 years and I still hate it. I've never acclimatized. No,
Yeah. Oh man, funny when and I said this in our last interview. Your, y- with the astrology.
yeah.
I'm very curious about this, and maybe this is something you can help me with because I always hear a woman ask, when it's watching dating shows or watching reality shows, they're always asking, "So what's your sign? When were you born?" Um, and before, I was like, astrology is not for me. It's woo woo. I I need you to be very frank with me, Fantanesh. How legitimate? How legitimate is the astrology? Like, how accurate is it? Is it really
In
accurate?
general, oh
Yeah,
my God.
like should we really take heed to it?
Honestly, it's a tool, and to me, it's a science. Like you're really like studying where how many degrees the planets are placed, in certain spaces in the universe and things like that. Like there's a real science behind it, which to me offers like a legitimacy compared to sometimes like tarot or like just drawing cards on random. Like this is like down to a science as far as like what time were you born, and then as far as like the minutes in between, it alters like personalities and it alters like characters and how your life will unfold. And I've found so much truth in it, and to be honest, it's guided a lot of my decisions. um, it's guided a lot of my relationships. It's guided, and this is platonic as well as business, as well as staff that I hire, as
Okay.
well as romantic.
Sure.
Um, it's like, it's really, and it's never been wrong in my
Even the staff
experience.
that you hire, hey? Sure.
Mhm.
Hey, what are some of the months that he's like, we can't hire, we can't hire this month, these months.
Well, it's not that you can't hire, and it's not that you can't date, and it's not that you can't be friends, and you can't disown your children. Like,
Hey,
like as far as like the personalities that
yeah,
might not mesh well with you or how you like to operate, but I use it to my advantage as far as how am I going to communicate? What are these person's strengths, and what are maybe some areas that they need more support in, or like how can I communicate with them? How can I build a relationship with them? I know it sounds like a little manipulative, but I feel like it's like really just a deep way to understand.
Yeah.
And I've done it for all of my kids, my three kids, like, and I know how to communicate with each one in a different way
Yeah.
to get like the desired outcome, I guess.
Sure.
At the end of the day.
Interesting. Have you ever considered having it as? I'm not sure if you do already. Have you ever considered having it as a paid service?
I used to do birth chart services for people as part of my business, but
Okay.
I haven't done it in a while. I know that I'm rusty, and mine was like very beginner friendly, like very entry level. There's so many layers to this astrology, and now I'm kind of exploring numerology as I enter my 33rd year. But there's it's a tool. It's a tool. I mean, I live my life by it? It really does heavily influence it, but
Yeah.
yeah, I recommend it. I recommend
No,
it.
no, I
Yeah.
hear you. I hear you. No, no, it's interesting because it begs the question, like if you had a marketing team behind you, and I'm just putting my business brain, my hat on right now, would and they say, you know what, Fanny, you're in Halifax, we can actually, with social media, we can actually really brand you as the lady that really specializes in astrology
Mhm.
and offering the service. The question begs:
Yeah.
would you want to be branded
Is that
as a
person?
person, or would you more want to be branded as, the wellness? But or if they said, hey, we can actually support you with being the astrology lady, for example, for lack of a better word, would that be something you'd be open to, or no?
You know, I feel more confident in the wellness space. I
Okay.
don't know enough about astrology. It's so in depth. Like there's so many layers. Like we talk about the degrees, like the mathematics, the science. Like there's people who have gone to university to like really study astronomy, astrology. Like they know it. And I'm not there yet. I don't even want to pretend that I'm there.
I hear you.
Um,
Yeah.
my understanding of it is very surface. However, it's great for like people who are just like kind of getting into the astrology bit. But as far as like being branded as the astrology lady, I mean, I already am in my friend group, but
Okay.
like I know,
Yeah.
I know that like there's a lot more that I could learn, and I'm interested in learning.
Gotcha.
Um, but yeah, that's maybe for my next venture.
Yeah.
But
Hmm.
yeah, really. Sorry, were you gonna say something?
Oh no, I know. What was just going through my mind was because I can actually see, because you've got a distinct look, and you've got an aura about you, and I can see you walking into Sobeys and people just questioning you. Hey, are you the astrology lady?
My astrology lead.
Yeah.
Maybe. I mean, I would love for that to be my day job, just like doing readings for people and just. I remember like at
Reiki and stuff.
22. Yeah, like I remember at 22 getting my birth chart. No, I wasn't 22. I was 25 or 27. I can't remember, somewhere along those lines. Um, but just like how it just validated everything, like it just like just to kind of have, I guess, answers to why I behaved a certain way, why I struggled with certain things. And then not only do I just have to accept like what my struggles are, but I know now how to work with those areas that are challenging to me. Like, for example, the relationship side, that scorpionic like intensity, like knowing that intensity is like what I kind of bring to relationships. Like, how do I maximize that? Like, that's as far as like passion goes, and as far as like the loyalty piece goes, and as far as like knowing the type of person that I might be attracted to or what I bring to the table. Like with astrology, there's no wrong and there's no right. It's like this is what it is. We all have our yin and our yang, but how do I work with these energies that I naturally have, and influence them. Like, for example, I had talked to you about this. Like, my Mars is, in yeah, my Mars is internal. Sorry, my moon is in Aries. My moon is in Aries, so that means like my emotions are really fiery. So on a day to day, people don't see me as like this fiery, confident, like go getter, ambitious person. But when it comes to like my business, that's when I know I'm gonna pull on this energy, so I can really like get things done, or I really kind of push for like an objective or a goal, or to create this partnership or whatever it is. So like, and I won't use that energy with my kids. When I'm with my kids, I might kind of pull more on my like Cancerian traits, where like I'm more nurturing and loving, but then my Aries might come out like once in a while, and I have to be
Yeah.
like, let me just like put you back for a bit,
Yeah.
like you know
Yeah.
what I mean? Like, you just work with what you have, and you know more about yourself. It's like a greater like understanding. So yeah, that's what I love about it. I hope that was
No, no,
a
I
little
hear
bit
you.
of sense.
I hear you. It's a journey, eh? It's a journey for sure. And for those that
Goodness.
are watching right now, we want to thank you, of course, for spending your time with myself and yeah
Absolutely.
and Fanny.
Yeah.
Um, I just want to bring this point home, Fanny, if you will, and I won't prolong this point, but uh, for some of us, Fanny, 2024 up until now, 2024 April leading into May, has almost felt like 2023 all over again.
Mm-hmm.
Some of us are feeling like nothing's working out. It's almost feeling like there's no progress that's happening in your life. If you are feeling this way, I'm glad you are watching, because I want you to keep this in mind. Is I want you to keep that the fact that you have made it thus far is proof that you can continue on this journey. My dad always used to say, because you have a pulse, you got a purpose. Many of us are
Mm-hmm.
feeling like there's no direction in our lives. And I want to remind you that because you have a pulse, and I just want you to feel your pulse right here, that pulse is reminding you that you still have a purpose on this earth. Don't think by no means you are just here for no reason. There is a reason why you are here. And it may not be a reason that you maybe see on television or social media. You've got your own specific reason. I've got mine, Fanny has hers, and so do you. And I want you to keep that in mind. Listen, 2024 is not yet over. You can still turn it around. It is still up for grabs. I sound like an auctioneer right now. Who has it? Come on, you can have it. You can have it. We all can. We all can still have it. So hang in there. Hang in there.
Absolutely. Amen to that. Amen to that. Um, and with that, like, I think it's a great opportunity to wrap up. But before we do, I want to do some rapid fire questions.
Yeah.
5 really short questions.
Rapid fire. Yeah.
Based on like our conversation today. I know we chatted about a lot of different things, but really, really quickly, what is love to you? Like, do you think love is a choice? Do you think it's a feeling? Like, what is love to you?
Okay, before I answer it, Fanny, just based on the amount of questions that you have, should I keep the answers under 10 seconds or under 5 seconds? Quick,
Um,
quick, or a little bit quick?
10,
10?
15.
Okay, we'll keep it. We'll
Yeah.
keep it under 10. So the first question is, what does love means to me?
Yeah.
For me, it means sacrifice, especially when it comes to Easter, how our Creator has died on the cross. His sacrifice, his love to me. For me, that's the ultimate form of love. Love equals sacrifice. If someone doesn't sacrifice for you, it doesn't mean they love you. A great sign to know if someone loves you is if they sacrifice for you. And maybe that person
Interesting.
can be a psychopath, and they sacrifice for the sake of getting something out of you, but just for the sake of the conversation, sacrifice is love.
Interesting. Okay. Wow. Okay. Sacrifice or compromise?
You know what? That's another podcast.
Okay, we'll move on.
Yeah,
I get what you were
yeah,
saying.
yeah,
I get
yeah.
what you were saying. I really
That's a
do.
good
Yeah.
point, though. Yeah.
Are you ready now? Like, do you feel like with all the work that you've done, are you ready for a relationship personally?
There's so much moving parts right now. I want to move. I don't want to stay in one place. So, for example, if a woman's watching this right now and she wants to be with me, this is some of the criteria. We cannot be in this country for a long time. We're going to be moving in the next year. You cannot work a 9 to 5. We've got to have to do something where we are working on something together. Those are two major criteria right there. So if that's
Okay.
fulfilled, yes, Fanny. If that cannot be filled, I'm happily single right now.
Okay.
Yeah,
But if those were filled, you feel like you're in the right space to be in a relationship. You feel like you're ready
absolutely,
to give.
absolutely. And I just
Okay.
want to reiterate the previous point that I made. It's going to be a work in progress. Um,
Right.
so yeah,
Okay. You want a sacrificing man that's about to leave the Navy and go start
come on,
his touring entrepreneurial journey.
come on. You got to say that ad in with more passion, Fanny. You got to say that ad with more passion.
Randall is single and available, just so y'all know.
Uh,
You just have to have a flexible job, and you can make it work and be
uh,
willing to travel. No, that's great. That's great. Um, Also, with your driven daily, you're like this motivating, person. You speak life all the time into everything that you do. What keeps you motivated, or how do you stay motivated?
So, number one, what keeps me motivated is having a compelling future. I just gave you a glimpse of what my future might entail in terms of, doing some of my bucket lists. That really keeps me driven. It keeps me motivated. What also keeps me motivated is the communication that I have daily with individuals. Um,
Mm-hmm.
you cannot do this alone. I realize I cannot do this alone. If I'm going to do this alone, I'm going to get into my head, and my head is going to take me into a downward spiral. So, people, the communication with people on a daily, and the compelling future, but also the 3 P's that I've mentioned, always like keeping the people in mind, always remembering what I went through, especially when I'm in a slump, remembering, hey, I watched through worse, and keeping those vivid memories in my mind. And of course, having that purpose, those 3 P's keeps me also keeps me driven. So that's what I would say.
Awesome. Yeah, no, I love that. I love that. And then lastly, what do you think um, single people need to hear right now?
This is one of the best times in your life. This is one of the moments where you get to know and fall in love with you again. Too many times, there's been too many moments where you've been pouring out to others. And we've been doing this for multiple reasons. One of the reasons, and one of the most dangerous reasons why we keep on pouring out into others, is because we don't want to face the reality of our own thoughts. We don't want to face the reality of us being alone with ourselves. And I think
Mm-hmm.
what message I would want for this question, Fanny, to share with those that are single right now: face you, face who you really are. Face that very woman and man in the mirror. See what comes from that reality and take it from there. But no longer are you going to run away from who this person really is. Face that person.
I love that. I love that.
Yeah.
Especially this is like the best time for you to get to know yourself and to really just learn yourself and be with yourself. Um, Thank you, Randall, so
Come
much.
on,
Like
Fanny. Those were some awesome tailor made questions, rapid fire questions right there.
rapid fire, rapid fire. Usually in person we're pulling from a deck, but I don't have you in person, so
Yeah.
I just kind of pulled those questions, and you literally dropped so much. I just really can't wait to really listen back to this and just like really reflect and pull some pieces out. So thank you so much for being generous with your time.
Yeah.
And where can folks like find you outside of this episode?
Sure. Certainly go to YouTube, Randall Mitchell, and also on TikTok as well, Randall Mitchell, Instagram and Facebook as well. Fanny, I just want to take the time out to thank you. Look, you're a woman of your word. I interviewed you. You interviewed you. You said, "Hey, I'm going to be on your show." Here I am on your show, and it just shows that if you are intentional with something, you'd make it happen. Now, Fanny, I'd like part 3 to be in person. I'd be happy to bring my gear, and maybe if you can organize, I'm not sure if you've got any connects, whether it's this year or next year. It has to be this year. Come on, we have to do sometime this year. If you can connect and get a studio or whatever, like just a space, I'd be willing to bring the lighting, the studio, the microphones, and we can do something in person if that's something you'd like, just to create content, for us.
Done.
Yeah.
Done and done. We will make that happen.
Awesome.
We'll make that happen. I think that'd be really, really cool to do this in person.
Yeah.
But yeah, thanks again, Randall. Thank you to all the listeners for joining and for listening in. We are so grateful that you tuned in.
Yeah.
Follow us on Instagram, the Blue Room Podcast. Join the conversations. And we look forward to chatting with you again soon.
Awesome.